I never imagined that the words "I'm sleepy" could cut so deep. But that night they did. I had walked into our bedroom, worn out from the day, but carrying with me the fragile hope that maybe we could close the distance that had quietly been growing between us for months. She glanced at me with tired eyes and said it softly, almost carelessly. "I'm sleepy." It should have ended there. I should have let it slide, the way I had done so many times before. Normally, I would have coaxed her, reached for her hand, whispered something tender in hopes of pulling us back together. But something in me shifted that night. I swallowed the ache rising in my throat, and instead of pleading, I let out a single word: goodbye. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, calm, almost offhand, but it carried more weight than even I realized. I left the room and never returned that night. 3 days later, everything I thought I knew about my marriage collapsed. For months, I had been trying to breathe life back into what we once had. In the beginning, our love had been effortless. Late-night talks stretching until dawn, spontaneous touches that needed no invitation. The way our hearts seemed to move in perfect rhythm. But somewhere along the way, that ease vanished. She began pulling away. Excuses, indifference, a constant prioritizing of everything else over me. And I, desperate not to lose her, became a man I barely recognized. Begging for scraps of affection, second-guessing my own worth, clinging to a fading spark. That night when I said goodbye, it felt like a line in the sand. I told myself it was dignity, that I was reclaiming a part of myself I had lost. But deep down, I worried that the line I had drawn wasn't just a boundary, it was a cliff's edge, and I was teetering. The next morning, the house was too quiet. The silence pressed against me like a weight I couldn't push off. I busied myself with errands, phone calls, work, anything to drown out the echo of her absence. By the second day, unease had turned into a gnawing fear. Images plagued me, her laughter with someone else, her warmth given away. I tried to shake them off, but they came in relentless waves. By the third day, I couldn't hold back anymore. I drove to her office, telling myself it was just to talk, but my racing heart betrayed the truth. I was terrified of what I might see. And there she was, standing by the reception desk, laughing with a man I didn't know. At first, I grasped for rationalizations. Maybe a coworker. Maybe an old friend. But then I saw her eyes. The softness, the light I hadn't seen directed at me in months. My stomach twisted. I forced the words out. "Who's that?" She jumped, startled, as though I had materialized from thin air. For a brief moment, hesitation flickered across her face before she plastered on a smile. "Oh, this is Mark. He's just helping me with a project." But the way they laughed together, the casual touches he offered her, there was nothing professional about it. And suddenly, all the small moments I had brushed aside, the excuses, the late nights, the cold shoulders, they rushed back like shattered glass cutting into me. I didn't confront her then. I couldn't. My chest felt hollow, my legs unsteady. But somehow I walked out, forced myself to breathe, forced myself not to run. The drive home blurred into memories. Her head on my chest, her hand finding mine in the dark. The nights I made her tea when she was sick. The promises whispered like secrets we'd never break. Now, all of it felt cruel, as though love itself had betrayed me. That night, I called a close friend, unable to sit in silence any longer. I told him everything, every detail. He listened, then said something that landed harder than I expected. "It's not just about that man. It's about how she's made you feel invisible." He was right. The affair wasn't the only wound. It was the slow decay, the years of feeling unwanted, overlooked, dismissed. The steady drip of neglect until I was nothing but raw nerves and unspoken pain. The next morning I packed a bag. No yelling. No pleading. No begging. I simply gathered my things and walked out. For once, I didn't look back. She called later, her voice frantic, edged with panic. "Why are you leaving? Please don't go." I made a mistake. Tears burned behind my eyes, but my voice stayed steady. "This isn't a mistake. Mistakes are slips. What you've done is a choice. Choices you made every day when you pushed me away. I can't live like this anymore." Her crying spilled through the phone. Once that sound would have pulled me back, softened me. Now it rang hollow, like an echo in an empty house. And though a part of me still loved her, still hoped she would see what she had destroyed, the part of me that had carried her indifference for months had finally learned something. I needed to protect myself. The weeks that followed were a haze of grief and quiet reckoning. I mourned the marriage I believed in, the love I had thought was unshakable. I let myself remember the good without clutching it, and I let myself feel the pain without letting it own me. Slowly, I began to see slivers of light. I exercised. I reconnected with old friends. I found small moments of peace in ordinary days. I came to realize that leaving wasn't just an end, it was also a beginning, a chance to rebuild myself without shrinking, without begging, without waiting for love that had already left the room. The pain didn't vanish. It lingered, quieter but present, in shadows, in passing songs, in faint reminders of laughter that used to belong to us. But it no longer consumed me. I discovered that betrayal, though it can shatter you, can also forge strength. It teaches you the worth of self-respect, the necessity of boundaries, and the courage in walking away. Months later, I heard through a mutual friend that she had moved on. A new life, a new love, maybe even happiness. For me, there was sorrow mixed with relief. I had lost love, yes, but I had regained something far greater, my dignity. I no longer waited for her eyes to soften, no longer begged for her touch, no longer doubted if I was enough. I had said goodbye, and in that word I had reclaimed myself. Sometimes at night, I think of her, not with longing, but with acceptance. And I understand now that the bravest thing I ever did wasn't walking out. It was walking in fully aware, ready to let go, ready to survive. Because love can wound, and betrayal can scar. But self-respect, that is what endures.